let's do one more thing with John Keane, and this is going to be a lightning round, so a lot of you will get to do this. Whether you know the book, maybe you know this piece only, but it's new to the main syllabus, you might not even know the piece, or the whole book, Counter Narratives, which I highly recommend to everybody. I would like to go around and ask you to create synonyms or no more than a phrase to explain a connotation of this powerful title word, counter narratives, right? Because that's important. I mean, ModPo, that's important to ModPo generally, and it's a brilliant use in this book. So I'm going to ask Lily and Dave and Jake and Jason to start. Real brief lightning round. What's a synonymic, whatever that word is, a synonymous phrase or word for counter narratives? Lily first.
I think counter as in against. So coming up against
narrative.
the narrative.
Right. And how does this particular piece do the against narrative? I mean, it's obvious, but.
It's not an alternative history. I think John was very intentional about talking about that when he visited us. It is an alternative, wow, it's really hard to describe it without using the word alternative, but it is a way to talk about these two figures that goes against the prevailing narrative.
Great, thank you. And the rest of the book does a lot of history in this way. This is a particularly formally experimental version of that. Dave Poplar, what's another word for counter narrative or phrase?
This isn't really a synonym, but I've been thinking a lot about the similarities between this and fan fiction. I can go on, but no, it's a lightning round.
Say a little more about fan fiction, because I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, fan fiction is where fans just take it upon themselves to write more about already established characters and stories, taking their worlds and going off with them. And in a lot of ways, like a lot of what the language poets are doing is pointing to the falsity of closure and how we have to go beyond it. And fanfic seems to be like that innate human response to try to resist that, to take it further, to bring their own ideas to this. Even established closed things, they still have to take them further.
Really interesting analogy. I don't think John Keane would have a problem with that analogy at all, because there's a democratic impulse or even a crowdsourcing impulse in fan fiction that John was trying to release these histories to that in counter narratives. Jake, counter narratives quickly.
Oh, I was digging just Dave's comment about fan fiction. That's like really great, and the potential of fan fiction piece of going rogue and against the rules that the narrative sets up, and this goes just to maybe earlier question also about like what makes language poets is the resistance to narrative as such, as a genre and storytelling. And like when you have like two stories going side by side, suddenly you don't have a coherent story, but you have something else. You have observation and maybe like a watching of language, and that becomes a counter narrative.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And there is a genre, well-established genre, that does this well, and that of course would be dramatic literature or drama or performance, where it's okay for people to talk over each other or to talk with each other. But this brings that to poetry, I think, really interestingly.